you were, and so I just ended up doing it for her. But
I'm just determined. I like having them on my channel when I'm done.
No, so I agree. I'm all good. I'm like, please do it. Please, please, please do it.
And I'm such a if I do it, then hopefully I remember. But I do it so infrequently, and then they move stuff. So it's really annoying.
And in the end, it ends up being frustrating, I would say. So
yeah. Welcome to Land Down Under Hangout. We are a book club who reads more than just books. We do graphic novels and movies and God, all kinds of things, really, even podcasts. So we basically review and discuss all kinds of great media. And tonight we are doing one of my all-time favourite books, Fall on the Hill. It was my pick this month, by Matt Ruff. It is a book set at Cornell University, probably in the early 90s. And I read this in the mid-90s, and I read it twice in the mid-90s, probably once at the turn of the century. And it's now 2016, and I was curious to know how my memories went and also to see what my fellow book clubbers thought. So just to caveat the discussion at the beginning, Google, with their wisdom with their Hangouts system and linking our accounts to YouTube without realizing that, we don't want new YouTube. It just got very confusing and I couldn't get anything to work. But it's good now. So I'm going to start. I know it sounds a bit unusual to normally get kind of opinions from you guys, but does it sound okay, by the way, in the background, or can all you hear is like washing the dishes? Is it all right? Because my husband's doing the dishes.
It's not bothering me. I can hear it, but I can hear you fine. So
okay, cool. So
wait a second. Sorry, Kim just spoke and I couldn't hear her. Yep, she's gone. We'll let her solve it. How about you go, Sarah? No, that's not better.
So yeah, as I said, I read this twice. I wanted to know if my memories of it and the things that I had problems with it, things that I thought, if I did this as a TV series or a movie or series of movies, what would I drop? What did I feel wouldn't translate? What do I think translates? So it's interesting. Some of my opinions have changed. It feels also that I feel the time for this to have been translated onto the screen might have passed now, which is a bit sad because I always remember thinking it's very visual in my head. It's a very cinematic. But there were parts of this I really did love. It's very much a book of its time. There's no cell phones, there's no technology. You definitely feel that you're in those early 90s without it being this, because it's written in the time, it doesn't feel like a nostalgic period piece. It's kind of, but it's well set without it being kind of a too throwbacky in some of the BF stuff we've done where they've written, the fashion, and you kind of go, that doesn't sound good 10 years later kind of thing. So I still really enjoyed it. I still am glad we all read it. My major memory of reading this time round was, wow, he does a lot of setup. There's a lot of setup. Like everything I really remember is in the second half of this book. There's a lot of stuff I go, wow, this is really like slow first 50%. And like, and I'm not sure it all needed to be there. That was my kind of feeling. I'm like, the second 50% of this book really moved. So I wasn't sure, because I remember kind of getting to 30% going, when are we going to get to, all the stuff I remember? But hey.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of reading a book set in the 90s, set at a university, with some sort of, fantasy elements and that kind of thing?
Have we got Kim back yet?
No.
No. Well, I'll go then because I've got to be honest, I haven't read it. Sarah, I tried so hard.
It wasn't your thing?
Well, I think what I came to the conclusion was that it's not the right time. It's not that it's not my thing.
Mm.
So I finished Caliban's War right before I picked this up. which, did you ever read Leviathan's Wakes with Sword and Laser?
That sounds really familiar. I think I might have. You have to remind. We read so much stuff. I can never remember. I'm like the one with the cat people. The one with the.
Okay, this is the one where there's belters. So there's these people living on the asteroid belt.
Oh, I think I wanted to read that, but like life got in the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I read the second book in that series, which is Caliban's War, and it was phenomenal. And this is not supposed to be a review of that book, but you know, book hangovers, when you finish a book that's so good that nothing else is actually meeting the standards.
Yeah.
And what I came to because I stopped then and went, right, obviously this is not the right time. Got the leeway. We had the break so that we come back to the next hangout. I thought, okay, this is good. I can get over it and I'll be all right. I didn't get over it. And I came to the conclusion that the best thing to do was to stop reading, because I was, you know, when you're sort of bordering on hating something because it's not what you want. I was like, I don't want to hate this book. I know I'm getting so many people saying how awesome it is. I want to like this book. I'm going to put it down so that I can pick it up again later and like it, rather than pushing through and ending up hating it. And from what you were saying there, Sarah, about the build-up, I think I made the right decision, because if I pushed through what I was already experiencing, I think I would have really gotten very frustrated. I tried everything, though, because I did actually flip all my little tricks, which is like to read the ending and things like that, which usually sort of gets me stimulated and things like that, but nothing was working. So
it's a holiday book, if that makes sense, because I read it both times on holiday. I read it, tried to leave, and because we had that 3-week break, I did try to read a little more leisurely, not, because I was starting to go, but once we had that break, I'm like, okay, I can really just enjoy the flow of the story and the build and the setup. And then I got, I was like, okay, this is cool. This doesn't feel like a chore, because sometimes there's books that you just kind of race through and they don't feel like a chore. But it was starting. I get your sense of, and it was his first book. He was like, in his mid-20s when he wrote it, and it was, I think that inexperience shows. But I was 19 when I first read this, so I was like the perfect audience.
I immediately got the feel though. I immediately got the feel though of what you're saying about the fact that it's supposed to have just a really good flow, but I just couldn't get the wave. Basically, I couldn't get on the wave and feel it.
Yeah. And if you've been reading a book that's kind of been a page turner, or
let's just say I would have given it 6 stars if I could have.
Yeah, but if it's been if it's a different type of flow, like it's a different wavelength, then you're not going to feel in the mode for it, in the zone. So and I haven't been reading a lot because I just simply don't have time. Like, I'm not going to be able to do the Harry Potter books for the next round because I just don't know. And I couldn't download them as a pair anymore. They've removed that. But hey, so they had these deals on Pottermore where you could buy the 3, then 2, then 2, and I was like, well, that actually would work well for me, because I'll get the first 3 and then see how I go. And this time I was going, maybe I'll get the next 2, and then I just take it as a sign that they've removed that. So you either buy them 1 by 1 or all 7, and I just went, I'll take this as a sign that I'm not meant to. I won't tune in at this point. So yeah. Anyway.
Well, let's check in with Kim and see if she can talk now.
No, Kim, what is going on? Where's your mic? I'm sure we heard you before, right? We heard her talking about the storm, right?
Yeah, she switched her mic. She switched because she thought it was coming out of the computer, the sound, or the mic was from her computer was picking her up, and so she tried to switch to a headset, and I think that's where we got the problem. Kim, maybe you need to go out and come back in again. Sometimes.
Go out and come back in, Kim. Yeah, because that's definitely helped in the past.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Especially when it's like everything's set right. What's wrong?
Yeah.
So I feel absolutely awful, Sarah, because I feel like I've totally let you down. But
That's okay. It happens, and I'm just hoping somebody's read it.
Well, Kim's read it. I don't know if she actually finished it, but she said she was very close. But yeah, I was just adamant that I didn't want to spoil it because I wanted to enjoy it for you. We can hear you.
Yay, yes. That works. See, it's like the turning it off and on at the wall business.
I can see a cat head down here. So I didn't finish it either, but I'm in the last book of it, and I actually am really enjoying it. I just haven't had any time. I'm really loving it, and I think it does build up.
Cool.
But yes, it's good that there aren't too many. There's lots of characters, but there aren't so many that I'm completely confused. Like
Yeah.
a lot of fantasy books can do.
Yeah, I'm just trying to open up my highlights, you know, as one does, my bookmarks and my highlights. And I'm trying to remember how to do that. My notes. Here we go. Okay, so, you know where I can start? Because if you've read a little bit of this, Mel, you should be able to go to beginning. Go through this.
Oh, don't worry about spoiling it for me either, guys, because I'm actually spoilers
You already
don't bother me.
spoiled it,
So.
But she read the end of the book.
I was going to say, yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah.
Spoilers don't bother me, and sometimes it helps me to actually gain interest, and then I go, wow, that was amazing, sort of thing. So
yeah, and to be honest, you kind of know where this is going to go because it's all in the setup. Probably not in the first half, but in the second half, it always like, oh, I totally know where this is going. So yeah. Okay, so there's a list of major characters, and there's the groups of different characters that I wanted to kind of talk through. So there's the major characters. So there's St. George. There's Aurora. There's Mr. Sunshine, Calliope. Then there's the Bohemians. Other human beings that so there's like Jinsei, the cops, the Tokleen House guys. Which did you get to read anything about the Tokleen House yet, Mel? I don't know where that is.
That doesn't sound familiar, but I really didn't get very far.
Okay. The sprites, the canines and felines, which I want to talk about, and then there's the black hats, so which are the kind of the evil people. And then there's some cameo appearances by different people who I think were apparently real life people, at Cornell during those times. Well, certainly Ezra Cornell was. So, yeah. I suppose you might have read. Did you read the first bit, Mel? You would definitely have read that bit, Kim, where the Bohemians are like riding up to Cornell, up to Ithaca through the small town, and they kind of had that run-in with the bears. Yeah. To me, and I always remember that scene very keenly. Like I remember them just kind of like riding through the town and people going, "Whoa!" That sort of like juxtaposition of characters, and I always kind of remember that from a kind of a cinematic point of view.
It almost seems like the Western sort of showdown sort of thing where they're all facing off against each other.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So the Bohemians. And the Great Ladies, they kind of have definitely stuck with me through the years because of the use of using the horses and that kind of thing. And there were definitely characters I really liked in it. The thing that annoyed me, and I'm going to spoil now, so I don't know if you've read this. Oh, come on, I'm going to spoil it for you here. I've gotten this far. It basically, do you know what happened with Ragnarok and Preacher? How far have you gotten with that?
Yes, I'll tell you where I'm up to. I'm up to just before the dragon comes out. The Architect's dragon comes out, so I'm around.
Oh, okay. So the Rubbermaid has already happened, yeah?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. So that annoys me now. At the time, it didn't, but it annoys me now that the one black character that Matt Ruff had, he killed off. That pissed me off now. However, I've read his follow-up novel called Gas or Electric, and I think he actually got a lot of. I think that was in response within himself as well, because in that's also a really good book, by the way. I really enjoy Gas or Electric. the Public Works trilogy, because in that they talk about having android servants, and the android servants are made to look like humans, and they all end up, the ones that are most successful end up being black. And it's a comment on this kind of what, you know, he talks about the token black culture. And I think that in this novel, I think he got called up on it, because now I read it, I actually go, it's really frustrating, Matt, that you had a really great character, and I know you had to kill somebody off, but like seriously, you know, and I suppose it was because he was so good and so pure, like because he was, you know, pretty great. He didn't have anything to work through. He had a good relationship and no problems, but it was just kind of like, you know, so that was, I thought, was interesting reading from you know, 20 odd years in the future. The Aurora love interest, I've always really loved that, but I didn't, you know, again, reading 20 years on, you already read this, Kim, like, why is she going to sleep? That just, like, I think it would have been really cool, like, because she was quite a kick-ass character, and I think it would have been cool if she was more, you know, like, less having to be saved, and, you know, like, I know it was about George, but I thought it would be quite cool if she was standing up a bit more.
I was missing the ending. It would have been nice to have her in it. She's missing the whole ending of the story.
I know.
It's nice to have her as the character in the ending of the story.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and it almost feels like Natty Hollister kind of fills that role. So I said that about Preacher, about having the only black, but she's actually a black character too.
She is, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, again, it doesn't matter, which is good. But you know, it's sort of. And the sprites. What did you think of the sprites?
They're quite cute. It's quite interesting. I don't feel like because I've taken so long to read it, I've sort of not forgotten chunks, but there's more parts that are more prominent. I think the story about the sprites isn't as prominent in my mind as some of the other parts.
Yeah.
But I do like all their vehicles are really cool. I haven't really thought too much about the sprites.
Yeah, I have to admit they never stick in my head, and I think, and it's I don't. Yeah, so that was always the bit that I kind of went. That's the bit that feels a little fanciful if this was to translate to the visual medium. Like, that's the bit I always thought people would kind of go bulk at. Not the talking cats and dogs, like that. I actually, because they're of our world. I know that sounds weird, but because they're of our world, we have cats and dogs, and they, you know, communicate telepathically. But the sprites, I always went, you know, I just don't know about that. That's almost, you know, but I don't know if that's because of the fact that they needed this villain who's essentially, you know, rising again, and, you know, had this previous, you know, incarnation. So yeah, I'm still not totally sure about them, and I could get confused about who was who sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of them seem to die.
Yeah, straight out. Yeah. I love the canines and the felines. They're actually like, their stories are great. Like, I love Blackjack and Luther, and like, actually when Mel put up that image of the dog and the guy on the hill with the kite, I was like, oh my god, it's Luther. Like, how did you search, like Mel, did you search
I searched Full on the Hill fan art.
You did? Okay, that's what I thought. I thought you must be searching
probably
for fan art.
And it was like the only picture that existed, and I had no idea if it was right, because it looks like, because there's a song by, I think, John Lennon, which is Full on the Hill.
Yeah, well, they talk about that in the book.
Oh, see, I wasn't sure if the song was related to the book or vice versa, or what was going on.
Oh yeah, because when I was looking for some cool imagery as well, and I couldn't find anything. But obviously, you must have been on like DeviantArt or something like that, because then that's
Google image search.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I couldn't find a thing. You found one thing. That's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed all the characters in there. Like, Luther was just so heartening, and the Excalibur the Third, who's the dean of canine studies, and he has to be guided around because he's blind, can't see anything. Just some great characters in there.
Sounds like a really large cast.
It is, but you don't lose too much. For me, the sprites were where I kind of got a little lost. Other than Puck and Saffron, everyone else was kind of expendable in my head. And then but the canines and felines I really like, because I just love that story of like this dog who can smell heaven and like sets off looking for it.
Yeah, it's so adorable and innocent.
He's so cute. And it's just, really nice. Oh. Okay. And what did you think? Okay, so I was just looking at this. What do you think of Tolkien? Did I say it right? Tolkien House? J.R. Tolkien.
Tolkien.
Thank you.
Tolkien?
Thank you. Yeah.
However you say Tolkien.
Yeah.
That was interesting. And I like how it alluded to, like, it sort of makes you, it kind of spells it out for you, or that maybe one of the other characters, it's actually her that is the, grand lady of the house.
Yeah.
Calliope. It's very interesting. I would have liked to know more about, well, it doesn't go too much into the people who lived there. It's more about that garden inside the Tolkien house that they really focus on, and not so much the characters. It's just that garden, which is really strange and creepy and amazing at the same time.
Absolutely. I was just looking at my notes.
I'll just let you know while you're in a break, in between things, Matt's posted, he's not going to come in, but he's posted a couple of thoughts if you want to have a look at them.
Oh, cool. Okay. I remember this. I remember giggling out loud to this, where Luther meets George for the first time. George, who had begun to stand up, was knocked back on his ass and pinned against the bunker as a dog leapt into his arms. If it had been attacked, George's career as a writer and a human being might have ended right there. But Luther intended only the greatest affection, and in demonstrating this, he licked George's face like a Tootsie Pop, holding great secrets at the centre. I always remember that. I was just like, thought that was always rather great. And I'm just trying to get to my, there we go. What else do I have in here? This I thought was hilarious. And I actually made a note about it, apparently. What did I say? Where did I go? Where did I go? Okay. It said here the computer jockey's name was Lenny Chu, and then it said here Ginseng had fished him out of a sea of seemingly cloned engineering students with matching steel-rimmed glasses and no-nonsense work shirts and multifunction programmable calculators. And I made a comment, because this is like the 90s, of course, and I went, my, still the uniform, just more obscure T-shirts, beards, and thick glasses. And I presume like an iPhone.
It's just an app now. Don't need a multifunction calculator, it's an app.
No, it's an app, yeah. I was just like, I like the matching silver glasses and no-nonsense work shirts, which is like, well, still a uniform, just, obscure T-shirts, beards, thick, rimmed glasses, and phones. So
quite often you get top knots nowadays too.
Yep.
I'm turning into one of those people. Get off my lawn.
Yeah. Know what you mean.
I
was just reading some of Matt's comments, so he's not too far through it. So he's only 16% through it. He's up to the bit where Luther and Blackjack have just escaped the pedigree pack.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, he started out a bit iffy about the dogs and cats bit, but it's one of his favourite. It is one of my favourite. The whole, Luther and Blackjack on their way to heaven and everything. It was one of the. I have to say, because Luther's just so adorable.
He's
and
so
Blackjack's
adorable.
just so funny. He said he laughed out loud when he was reading the Dobermans attack each other.
Yeah.
And Blackjack goes, that, said Blackjack, is the stupidest fucking thing I have ever seen. So you could just imagine a cat saying that.
That's so true. He's like, hey, we should go. Like we, just get bored with everything.
Yeah, and he also said he wasn't a fan of, not usually a fan of the fairy, so it took him a while until he heard of Walter to, I think it started a little slow, and I wasn't particularly interested in the fairies at first either. Still not, but...
Walter appears. Yeah, the dad.
Yeah. Walter's good.
Yeah. The Harley thing's interesting because I don't know. I'm just not sure. In some ways, what she's there to train him, but why that had to be in a romantic way, I don't know.
Maybe because I don't know why the author chose her, but I guess her being that kind of like being Calliope, that's why the author would choose her to do it in that way. I guess it does make it interesting.
Oh, look, here we are. I made a note. This is when they had the messenger bird came into the hall, Kim.
Oh, yeah.
So give me that, Aurora shouted, looking at Ragnarok. The Black Knight did not have to ask what she meant. He snatched up the lightning rod and tossed it underhand to her. Aurora reached up and caught it one-handed. Even as the messenger flew again at George, she turned and thrust, sizzling a hole through the ice bird's throat, catching it and drawing not blood but water. The messenger's wings beat the air ferociously, but it did not unscrew itself, and now George's hands joined Aurora's in gripping the lightning rod. Together they began to turn in place, swinging the rod around as if in some odd courtship dance. 3 times they turned, and then, screaming for everyone to get out of the way, Aurora's arms flexed, George's arms flexed, and they hurled both bird and iron at the blazing hearth. And I think I wrote a note basically to say, Aurora kicks ass. And I'm like, that scene was like... And
that's one of the scenes that it made me really sad when they've put her to sleep.
That was me too! I was like...
Stuff like that for the book.
It's like, I didn't remember that scene, and then I was like, oh, that's cool, she's kicking ass. And then I'd forgotten they put her to sleep, and I'm like, why is she asleep? She should be up there,
Yeah, fighting beside him. Yeah.
So no, I was exactly the same.
Is she supposed to be Sleeping Beauty?
I think so. Like she does say when she eats the apple, she says, "Oh, he loves fairy tales," like something about Brothers Grimm, doesn't he? He just loves the Brothers Grimm. In reference to Mr. Sunshine.
He's talking about Mr. Sunshine. She's talking about Mr. Sunshine.
Yeah.
But she's supposed to be like, she's always something about her. She's always wanted to be part of a fairy tale. So this is her fairy tale. She's the prince, and George does refer to her a few times as the princess. So this is what happens to princesses. They eat poison apples and go to sleep or fall asleep somehow.
Yeah.
So it almost seems inevitable, considering they kept saying she wants to be in a fairy tale and they kept referring to her as the princess. It sort of makes sense that she's gone to sleep.
Another thing I had was, how there was the rat pack house, or whatever, Row Alpha. Yeah. It was interesting of its time, but it also kind of keenly played on my mind as I read it, considering all the stuff that's gone on, a lot of the expose regarding college rape in the United States. And there was, so that kind of did definitely sit there for me. And there was this bit where I actually highlighted and said, Ragnarok, not as sympathetically. It's different, isn't it? When it's someone you know, maybe even someone you care about, instead of just some drunk girl at a shagging. And I made a note, and I thought this was interesting language that Matt Ruff used, because I didn't think about this back in the 90s in the same way when I watched some of the films from that, from the early 90s and the 80s today, and I go, wow, this is like Back to the Future is a classic one, right? Where Biff's going after Lorraine in the car. Like when I was a kid, I was like, oh, it's really bad and all this kind of stuff. Now I'm actually horrified watching it, because I'm sitting there going, that's a rape scene. I'm actually, like, we watched Back to the Future and it really just doesn't sit well with me now. And I thought that and I highlighted this to say it's not a shagging, it's a gang rape. There's something, I don't know if it's that time period or what it is, but it's like, no, at least now we've kind of go, let's call it what it is. Like, let's not try and soften this because, although they do, the thing that I thought was good is that he does talk about how this girl Pearl, it did just, she closed down her life around this, and it did, the depression, and it was very serious, and he didn't try to make light of the impact it had on her. But I just thought the language was interesting, like when he was saying that to Jack, like, call a spade a spade. It wasn't a shagging, it was, Anyway, I don't know what other people thought of that, and also, that's something that occurred to you, Kim, when you read some of these things or see these things from that time period, whether you kind of go a bit soft on some of the, things that we don't do today.
Yeah, you certainly change your attitude, I think, as we've gotten older and society's changed a bit more. I think we certainly changed our attitude towards it. We look back at it and we go, this is not appropriate anymore. And it's a lot more serious than, like, the movies make it out to sound like back then. I'm sure that when I first watched, the Back to the Future with that scene, I probably didn't think anything about it. Now, watching it, it's huge, yeah.
And even my husband, I was thinking with my husband watching it, and we watched it, and he basically said it. I think he said it before I did. He said, "This is a rape." Like, if George actually walked away, that would just be so much more wrong with this than than that. And it's just a rape or even just sexual assault, doesn't matter. She said no, and it's not being respected, and it's just something. I know we're going off topic, but it's just kind of some of the things that you see or you read in books of that time, and in movies of that time, and you're kind of going, it doesn't sound quite right. So,
but you get that with a few types of stories. Like, if you read the first The Pern series by Anne McCaffrey, the main character ends up having sex with the main male character because they're dragons mate, and they're closely involved with their minds with them, and so they have sex with each other during that. It's like, that's very dubious as to consent. That could be considered the equivalent of a drugging and that sort of thing. It's like, this is really not okay. But you get in a lot of the older books but I think it's just important to discuss it and be really honest about it, like we are here. So
well, it's just, I suppose, and I don't know. No, I was going to say it might be also being a parent has brought it up, but no, I think I'd be still very aware of it. But it's that kind of thing of, watching films that I loved in my childhood with my daughter now, and sometimes it's some of those gender specificity to the roles, like, there's such a divide that, I don't want a boy or a girl to ever feel that influences them. Oh, well, she's not allowed to do that, or he's not doing that, or he's not being sensitive, so I shouldn't be as sensitive. And that's the kind of thing, and that's interesting because I want to share things that I love, but I also want to call out bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's, for instance,
when it comes to some of that, I think, do you know Tansy Rayner Roberts?
I know that name, yeah.
She's one of the podcasters on Galactic Suburbia. And she's also an Australian author who lives in Tasmania.
That would be why I know, right? Okay.
She talks a lot in her blog and on the podcasts and stuff about dealing with her girls who are growing up in and sharing the media that she loves, because she's deeply in sci-fi and fantasy, and she shares things. And she loves, like, old Doctor Who and things like that. But there's a lot of things that are not okay, and so she talks about how she does that sharing. So that might be interesting for you.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna check that out. That sounds really interesting, because it's definitely some of those things that I watch and go, But at the same time, there's things that I love, and I go, there's some really good representative, characters. Like Goonies is really good still. I think it still holds up because you've got Kerry, I've forgotten her last name, kind of being your, the cheerleader style girl, but you've got Martha Plimpton being a great kind of like every girl, which is good. And the guys are from all different walks, and so yeah, that's one I do enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, in some respects, that's one of the things that bothers me about movies like that, is that there's the every girl, but then the guys get lots of different walks of life, and it's like, where's the variety of the girls?
Well, that doesn't bother me so much because of the fact that they were different ages, and that these boys were like 9 and 10. They weren't really, aware of girls as per se yet. They were kind of hanging out in their gang. And it was about, two brothers, and the brother happened to have these, high school friends that he had to go and rescue, who came and helped to rescue. So in that context, so that in that one I kind of go, okay, that's, it kind of makes sense from that point of view.
My problem doesn't come from that movie specifically. It's more the generic feeling over lots of movies that it happens so many times. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No. I completely agree. Did you guys? You probably didn't get to this bit yet, Mel, but Kim, Carl Sagan. They talk about Carl a fair bit.
Carl Sagan's house. They've mentioned that so many times. Carl Sagan's house.
Yeah. We have two neighbours. We have the Rat House, and we have Carl.
Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan. We're constantly just casually mentioning Carl Sagan's house or Carl Sagan's yard.
It's so appropriate for the 90s too. So
yeah. Again, of its time. He was like, so he's dead. Very sad.
Yeah.
Dead. So not there anymore. I think his wife lived there though. I think I heard I think it was a Radiolab podcast interview with her. It was really, really cool. Because she was actually very much involved in the Golden Record. She was actually on the team. That's how they met. Was on that team. Or that's when they got together. Very cool. Yeah. Anyway, it's a beautiful love story. I totally recommend it. Did anybody, probably Kim, because you got the higher than me, do you end up getting curious, because this is also a time thing. Like, I read this in the 90s. I read this, I think the first time I read this was 1994, 5, and I read it again probably turn of the century. It didn't occur to me. I never had any access to it, but now I Googled all the places, and I got on Google Maps and looked at all these places, because I just, I had in my head how it was, and now I'm going, but this is a real place. I could go look at these buildings.
Yeah, I haven't done it in this one, but yeah, I like it when they use real places, because sometimes I want to draw a map in my head, and I'm like, I don't know what it looks like. I can't work it out. It's real. I just want a floor plan just to orientate my head through the story.
Yeah.
And it's great if they've actually got a real place and they're using the real buildings. You can actually go and look at it now with the internet.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. And what was great was, it actually, for me anyway, it was better than what I kind of come up like. It was kind of in keeping, because it is a really beautiful university with amazing buildings, and it's it's Ithaca and it rains a lot, so it's very green. But
it's green to us.
and they have, now they've got the drones. They're doing the belfry where the sprites live. I was like, oh my god, like the drone going up the belfry. I was like, wow. And the lake actually exists with the
BB Lake, BB. Oh, the little island in the middle. I'm sorry, I'm looking at it now. I can see the little island in the middle.
I don't know. The only thing I couldn't see was the boneyard, but I'm pretty sure it probably exists.
Yeah.
So I thought that was I was like, oh, this is so cool. We have to look at places, and that is timeless. Like, these buildings have been around 100 years before that, and they'll be around for another 100 years. So that part of the story, for me, I think is why it's still timeless. It's set in a place that doesn't change that rapidly, if that makes sense, because it's it's a university.
And they're gonna take care of those buildings, and they want them to be there, so things don't really change.
And they don't want it, the green space has got its purposes, and they're not. So I loved that. I think really helps the story. I'm just having a look to see if there's anything else.
It's like the streets. The streets are
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yep. And the gorge, like you can figure out where
But the
Ragnarok-
truck went down.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking at. I was like, where'd the truck go? And I was like, I can totally see where the truck went. Yeah, and then it's like,
Wow. Are there any scenes in the library? Because this is gorgeous.
Yes, there is.
There is a really good scene in the library. In fact, that scene in the library is the one that's stuck in my head for 20 years.
Yeah. It's like a horror movie.
It is. It is. Yeah. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Alien Library. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, work for me, screen share. Okay. Share.
Yeah.
Can you see that? That's so pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's right. She's on one of the scenes. They're up on the walkway.
She's on the catwalk.
She's up on the walk and the catwalk. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a scene I totally remember in my head. And weirdly, though, again, this has lived up to be better than what was in my head. The one in my head was quite austere.
Yeah. I almost tried to click on a different picture on Mel's screen. What's that one?
Which one would you like?
I was just looking at the next one along.
Yeah, see, there's the belfry.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then you can see it's got a view over the big lake at the bottom. I mean, it just looks like a beautiful place, other than the snow and the rain.
Yeah. The fact that it rains all the time.
Yeah.
I'm still looking to click on things on the screen.
Yeah.
By the way, Sarah, on the little controls down the bottom where our heads are, have you got a white outline around yourself?
No, I was pausing. I had a white outline around you so that we could see your
Right.
see your
Okay.
things.
Cool.
And then
If you click on someone, it gives them a white outline.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
see that, yeah.
I just realised I haven't seen Kim's face pop up.
There you go. There's Kim.
It's fine now. Before, I think we spent the first part of this up until now, and we're just seeing you. And I was like,
oh, really? I'm sorry.
I saw Mel.
Did you? I was looking back. I was seeing lots of both of you. Yeah, but that was on the big screen, so.
Maybe it was me. Maybe I'd clicked on something. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, because I don't know if my white line will influence the broadcast or not. I was trying to look at yours.
Yours does. Okay. Because you're controlling things, but mine doesn't. So if I click on somebody's face and it's gorgeous, and I just want to stare at them the whole time long, then nobody else will have to experience that along with me. But because you're controlling things, it would. So normally I don't do that.
Ooh. Where is it? Yeah, what was this kibitzing? Good word. Because I think the blue zebras were real, from what I understand.
Okay.
Blue zebras. Sorry, I should stop doing that. You can't explain everything. Shut up, Melanie.
Political.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He does have this big thing at the beginning to say, like some of this is based in, or maybe it wasn't. He said some of this is based in reality and some of it isn't. So don't go looking for too much.
It could be based on another group, and he's just renamed it because I think that's some of the things he might have done.
Yeah.
Like just based it on other ones and rename or use different names and.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Maybe I should Google who's got cool questions for this. Is there anything else anybody, Kim, you thought you might want to talk about? I finished this last week, so I'm kind of like a week behind.
I can't think of anything. We've gone through all the groups, haven't we?
Yeah, I love those the cats and the dogs, and that kind of purebred mongrel thing was really compelling as a I guess as a plot device. Oh, sorry.
Stop yawning.
Kevin. 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 Sorry, guys. Hang on.
Something must have happened.
Yep.
Must be Luna.
Sorry, he was listening to something and he couldn't hear her.
Is Luna okay?
I don't know. I'm sending Kevin upstairs to see what's what.
Okay.
Okay, well, I can't think of anything else, because I just was kind of ill-prepared today. This is not so great for my choice. Okay, that's about all, really. Yeah. Any thoughts? Any bits, Kim?
I don't think so.
I think you both should just.
We're all tired.
Poor thing. It's
been a pretty miserable day here.
Yeah, so a big storm go through, or what was the...
Yeah, it's just windy. Ooh, we had a couple of patches where it wasn't too bad, but it was pretty much just like pouring with rain and windy all day. So, yeah. I think my dad called up for a lift home from work. My dad said my cousin lives just in the hills, and he had 2 rainwater tanks that decided to visit the neighbour's yard, and his ute almost tipped over because it's sitting on top of a hill out on the property. So it's been a little bit windy, yeah. So, yeah, they lost both of their new rainwater tanks to the neighbour's yard.
Oh, bugger.
That's wow.
It's been very windy.
Yeah. Oh, we had it pretty bad, but I don't think we had it that bad. We lost another tree last week though because we had such bad winds. So.
I think what was it? Something. A couple of roads flooded in the area because so much rain coming down. But luckily, our building last time it poured down with rain. Our building had an indoor water feature, but this time it's managed to hold. No more indoor water feature.
Well, we
just down the stairwell, the entire above the stairwell, or halfway down the stairwell, was just gushing water down. So it looked like one of those, goes over the little ripples.
Yeah.
The water feature, water coming down. That whole wall was just like that. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
The school I was at today, the IT room flooded.
Oh, that's the best.
God.
Yeah. Really lucky it happened to go down a wall that didn't have the electronics on it or anything, but it could have been so much worse. Half the room was a puddle.
Yeah.
Literally like water actually sitting on top of the carpet. It was that much water. It was just like... But yeah, apparently they managed to save everything, so that's good.
Well, that's good. I was looking to see if there's any other thoughts. The main one is that on his website he talks about writing the book and it was a very key. Who was it? Yes, I read a review on Amazon.com that said that you had disowned Fall on a Hill. Is that true? He said, no, it's a net rumour. Because it was my first published novel, I can't help being critical of it. When I wrote it, I thought it was perfect, and now I know it was just the best my 20-year-old self could do, and this bugs me. But Fall is still my baby, and it always will be, which I think is really cool, because that's exactly how I feel now reading this 20 years later, after reading so much more. Like, when I read this, I was 19 the first time out. I was actually the same age as the author. And it does read a little bit like a YA, like more like a true young adult, as opposed to a teenage one. Like it's sort of that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you call it. Maybe there's a genre called college fiction, university
there
fiction.
is actually a genre for that. They call it new adult.
Oh, new adult.
New adult fiction. New adult fiction. Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, I mean,
young adult fiction, new adult fiction.
Yeah, new adult fiction. You were young before, now you're new.
Yeah. Always seems that it should go around the other way. You'd be new and then you'd be but...
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, I don't think the title actually makes sense, but obviously
you have to come up with something.
That stage between young adult and going into adult.
Yeah.
They do like the classifications now. They love it when they have a new genre that they can mix it up in and go, oh, this is really awesome. And they love, I think that at the moment the big trend is to have those sorts of genres which are a bit defying of genre, but at the same time it has its own thing. So like young adult they love because it can be anything as long as it's intended for this age group, essentially. I know what the next thing's going to be. The late 20s group.
Late 20s, yep.
Because clearly when you're in your late 20s, you don't read the same stuff as what you read in your 30s. Emergent, there you go, emergent adults.
Emergent, I was going to say emergent adult.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Well done.
Or maybe you call them, like you call that whole genre dirty 30s. I'm picking up the VF books now. I'm in my dirty 30s.
Yeah.
Oh dear. They have to stop at new adult. If they do any more, it's just going too far.
Emergent adult, cusp adult.
No, I like the emergent adult, although technically I think that's a better term for the new adult ones, in all honesty.
Yeah.
They sound like butterflies coming out, you know.
Yes, because apparently all of them don't care about gender anymore, so I like that. Coming out. Yeah, exactly. Apparently, statistically, the most college students and teenagers nowadays are identifying as not caring so much about what gender they are or being identified as a particular gender, and the same for the sexuality. Yay!
Yeah, that's good.
Mm. Well, guys, it's 9:30 for me. I'm going to go to bed.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the same thing. I was just thinking if there's any other questions, but I think I was going to see if there's Matt. Oops, I first found a book. No, that's all right. Okay, well, thanks, guys.
Don't thank me. I'm terrible. I'm bad girl. Bad girl.
I guess that's kind of like, because I was a bit ill-bed, I was like, well, hopefully people who read it and have some strong thoughts on the matter, but you know, you can't have it all the way. So, and I think you didn't because you got a hard copy of Fall on the Hill, right, Mel? Because I bought it for you.
Yeah, you gave me a copy.
Yeah. Yay! That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yay!
So I've got a copy. It's going to be read. It's just that I'm clearly not in the right mindset. And in the end, for me, that it was that I don't want to disappoint you and hate it. So I'm sort of like, I need to be in the right mindset.
Yeah. Well, if you're planning although I'm sure the list is very long for holidays, it's a good holiday read, you know, because it's very lazy. It's just a big book. That's the only problem.
Yeah, it's actually, I don't find it that fat. I think though that it's not what I would call, well, I didn't find it, at least at the beginning, a light read. Maybe that's because I didn't get on the wave though. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as we said, it's a new adult book, and probably what you've read is probably a lot more highbrow. What you finished on was a lot more highbrow than this was, you know, by a much more experienced author, you know, than Matt Ruff was at the time.
Yeah. No, I think it's just a very different pace. That's all. This feels more like reading a Terry Pratchett, but not even quite like that. But you know, it gets more into that sort of feel. Yeah. Whereas what I was reading is like action.
Douglas Adams threw it in there, and yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was reading action and adventure, kick-ass females, and all of this sort of stuff, and I was just like.
Yeah, and that's the problem with that. And I noticed that with the first half, I was like going, I don't remember it being this, like my memories were keenly of the second half. Like, and like there's only a few moments, as I said, like the bit where the Bohemians, you know, roll into, you know, ride into town. There's just only a couple of key areas out of the first book, and the whole Calliope thing, I kind of felt in some ways it wasn't really necessary. Like part of me just goes, yeah. I think you could have found other ways to do that. I don't know. I think this is a 20-year-old Matt Ruff who, you know, the perfect woman. Oh, I wish it could happen to me, kind of thing, writing about it as opposed to, you know, finding a more interesting way. But yeah, but I did love how he could call the wind. That was kind of cool.
That's nice.
Yeah, that was really cool, and that always stuck with me of how he could get the wind to blow. So that was really neat.
Can I just do a bit of group business?
Yes, with all three of us.
well, it's specifically for Kim. It's actually specifically for Kim.
Yep.
Kim, I don't have anyone picking for October, and I don't have you down for picking anything this year. Did you want to pick October's pick?
Sure.
Okay.
Yay,
So now October. That gives me an entire year of I know who's either picking or what kinds of books we're doing for the month. I'm like,
Katrina's looks quite good. Like it looks like it's got amazing reviews.
Yeah, it does. I'm quite interested in it. I think again, it's going to be one of those ones I'll have to be in the exact right mindset. So I think no matter what like it doesn't matter how close it is to the hangout. If I feel in the mood, I'm just going to pick it up and read it because I don't want this to happen again.
All good. All good. Okay, guys. Well, it's 9:30. We're gonna finish.
Yeah.
An hour. That's pretty awesome.
Reasonable hour. My gosh, it's amazing.
I know. It's amazing. And if I'd had my shit together, maybe it could have even ended earlier. So, bye, pussycat.
Hello. Is that Tombo?
Yeah, that's Tombo. Apparently my workmate, he just came back from Japan. He can't find them, but he bought little finger puppets of Tombo and Kiki for me. So if they find them...
That's pretty cute.
Alrighty then.
Okay, bye everybody.
See you next time.
Bye. Bye.